It's never happened before. I blame you, Dem.
All right.
Or Mux.
That was a very forced mux.
That's actually... Do you hear that?
Yeah.
This is my alarm to set up for the podcast.
Excellent.
Way ahead of you. So, we could have this be our holiday podcast.
Yeah, knowing our schedule, this is going to be... because this is one day before Christmas Eve. So this is technically our Christmas episode. But then again, it's probably going to be edited in January and maybe released in March. So, yeah, bear with us.
You ever hear this thing that I hear all the time on TV, that suicide rates go up during the holidays? It's actually not true.
Oh,
Apparently it goes slightly down.
Oh, is it one of those false false common knowledges?
Yeah.
Huh.
Isn't that odd?
Today I learned. I should put that on Reddit. I'm sure it hasn't been rehashed 15 times already.
Anyways, so which holidays do you celebrate? Do you celebrate Christmas or...
I don't really have any kind of religion that I'm particularly interested in. So yeah, it's just the state holidays. I guess it's Christmas.
For maybe the last 3 to 4 years, which is a long time, nobody has had a clue what to get me for Christmas or my birthday, because I never really want anything. The only things I really get for myself, I mean, the last time I bought a video game was Minecraft, which was like 4 or 5 years ago. And the only real things I get are math books and markers for when my markers dry out for my whiteboard. So nobody has a clue what to get me. So a lot of the time I don't get anything for Christmas or my birthday. A very funny time was a while ago. I opened a gift on Christmas. I was like, oh, it's markers. And the best thing was, it was my markers. Somebody had wrapped up my own markers from upstairs.
That's a good gift. That's very thoughtful.
I guess, I don't know. They said, a promise that I will get you markers when they dry out. I don't find this that annoying because, honestly, I don't need much. If nobody knows what to get you, it usually means you don't need that much. But there's one thing, and that's my relatives. Since I was a kid doing lots of math, they would always get me sort of math things or math t-shirts. Things like when I was, say, studying analysis, an aunt gave me a shirt that had 3 triangles on it with jokes like, I'm isosceles, I'm scalene. It's like, those aren't even jokes. And just gonna say this right now, nobody should get me math things. This is something where I actually have some knowledge in the field. There's nothing I can gain from the math toys that you give me.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather they just give me a book on anything else. Like, I got another math book talking about math in the real world. It's like, yes, but I know all this stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for us, going back to the Christmas theme in general and its connection to gift giving, we have a separate gift giving second Christmas. It's called Sinterklaas, which is sort of the origin of Santa Claus as a gift giving person. Christmas is a very weird, quote unquote, American Christmas is a very weird amalgamation of different pagan and Christian
true
things.
Christmas.
So we have at the start of December, we have Saint Nicholas coming here, Sinterklaas in Dutch. He's the one who uses... Let's not go into the Black Pete thing, but...
Yeah, I actually saw a news story about that.
Yeah,
do you want to go into that?
It's a very popular topic of discussion, and no. He comes and gives presents to kids. So generally our Christmas is... We do have some presents nowadays. Like, my parents just like giving their kids presents.
Yeah.
But it's like bath soap gifts.
I would prefer bath soap. What are you talking about? Oh, I would love bath soap. I don't take baths, or shower.
Yeah, it's, well, if you don't have another gift-giving occasion, then I guess you have to put it in Christmas and actually get people gifts. I don't know. I overthink these things. I like it.
Gift giving?
No, the whole holiday thing.
What's to overthink?
The holidays are such an inconsistent, non-analytic occasion. People say you should focus on giving and fun and being with others, and I just can't get around this patchwork of lies and inconsistencies that is based on, and it's like Asperger's but worse.
See, the way I see it with the holidays is you should just focus on relaxing, having fun, gift giving. No, shit.
Fuck it. Next topic.
The holidays for me, I think will forever be different now, because this is my first year. I only took 2 college courses, but taking some college courses.
Mm-hmm.
And so the holidays will always be shortly post finals.
Yeah.
Did I send you the picture of the amazing final exam room
Yes.
that I got to take? Oh, I love that.
It's like
I love things.
like a supersized. Is it like an enclosed track?
Yes, it is.
That is
It's
amazing.
Johnson track at MIT.
I did not know they made. It's like hangar sized, and that was like
Yeah.
a quarter that you showed me, right?
I love things like that. But I'm going to give some background for the listeners. I self-study a lot of math and theoretical computer science stuff, but I feel like I should start doing the college things. This year I managed to, I guess, finagle my way into 2 college courses, one at Harvard and one at MIT. I won't say how I did that because it was surprisingly easy, and most likely, most people who live in the Boston area would hear this and then see if they could do it too. I think by both institutions' rules, it's either formally forbidden or very frowned upon to just let other people take your classes. But somehow I got into these 2 classes. One of them was, I guess, Theory CS, a second course in algorithms, and the other one was a first course in topology, which is just math. Those courses have finished. I think I probably enjoyed the MIT one more because they have just hilariously fun exam rooms where they crowd 600 people into taking an exam in a very organized fashion. I'm always very impressed with how MIT is able to organize everything. I remember for some program, I was in this line that, when there are super long lines, you know how they tend to bunch up, so it's a line that's 2.5 people wide. So it's like 2.5 people wide and across 2 blocks. I walk into the back of this line with my dad and I just think, we're gonna be here forever. And it's really cold, and so he goes back to get some jackets to the car, and then the line just starts moving. It's moving really quickly, and I'm almost all the way around this block corner. I'm like, when he gets back, is he gonna look around and be like, where the hell did he go? Because the line was just moving super quickly. It just turns out that the organizers of the event were just really good at moving a line forward and getting people through. MIT has a lot of things like that, and this exam room was just completely the same thing. It was hosted in a track room, and there were 2 classes, my class and a bigger class that maybe had 350 people, and our class has 253 people.
Okay.
Together, it was quite a lot of people. They managed to get everybody the exam and started within 10 minutes.
Wow. Huh.
They also were handing out cookies because apparently finals is very stressful. Like when I went to the bathroom outside the track room that was the final exam room, the toilet I went to had a bunch of puke in it.
Oh.
And the thing is, it's like, oh, someone didn't flush. It's like, no, this person flushed. This was the puke that was left over after one flush.
Wow.
That was also my first experience with that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Some people are not handling this day that well. But other than that, I I will link to a video. This will be our first short video on the channel of just this huge exam room.
We're diversifying
I know, right?
into multimedia. Should we talk about, have you ever been in a Christian church on Christmas Eve?
No. I've never been in a Christian church on Christmas Eve. Although I think I could be, because my girlfriend is Christian and she will be at a Christian church on Christmas Eve.
I'm actually interested in how you would react to Mass on Christmas Eve.
Maybe.
So for I guess about 10 years that I can really remember, I was baptized and I had my in Dutch it's called a second christening. I'm not quite sure.
Sorry, do you have like another 10 years which you don't remember?
I will get into that later. Anyway.
So you were baptized. I did not know this about you.
Yeah. I'm officially Catholic from about like 6 years old until just before I went to a quote-unquote college. They dragged me to church on Christmas Eve to attend Mass. And this is frustrating to me in multiple ways. So very, very early on in my life, I already understood that. First of all, like when I was 4, I already found out that Sinterklaas was not real, so Saint Nicholas.
Tragic.
Yeah, it was kind of early on. Then I guess I just thought everything through to its logical conclusion and pretty much determined that this whole Christian thing is probably bullshit as well.
Yeah.
And my parents said, yeah, pretty much. But we think there are good morals in there, and if you just disregard all the fairy tale bullshit, then it can still be valuable. And I thought, nope. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, you're 4. You're busy working on your thesis, and
no,
I'm trying to imagine Little Dem.
The annoying thing is that this works on a couple of levels on things I find annoying. So first of all, the story is exactly the same every time. They talk about the Christmas story, I guess. So Jesus being conceived, the 3 wizards, all that stuff.
3 wizards. Oh, wise men.
The 3 wise men. Yeah, I call them 3 wizards.
3 wizards sounds a lot more fun. I'm changing it to that. I'm never saying wise men again. Oh no.
They always tell exactly the same story. They go through the same hymns. They go through the same. Again, I don't know.
They don't spice it up.
No.
Instead of
it's exactly
virgin
the same.
conception. Jesus has 3 dads, or no?
It's a Protestant church, but it's old style Protestant church. So they think they should tell the story as it is, and they do have a children's Bible for the children's Mass, which is slightly more simplified, and some kid reads the actual text, but in general it's all the same. And after 2 or 3 times you kind of know everything. There's nothing new in there. There are no morals. The more times you hear it, you kind of hear all the inconsistencies and how did this work in that time, and shouldn't there be much more time in between these parts of the story and that kind of stuff. So it all becomes less believable over time. So I started staring at things in the church, because the church is very ornate. There are these Christian organizations that have their own. They have tapestries on the walls, and there are these very ornate windows. So, after 2 more years, you kind of seen all of that as well, because it's 2 hours long each time. So, and then I just started to become belligerent. Then this creeping idea. I have met so many people, some friends of my family, but also like the people at the church and others that have these quote-unquote jobs that involve doing the exact same thing every time. And I just don't understand how these people can do this, right? Like,
Oh, do you mean like every mass they
yeah, if they tell the same
move
story,
something? I don't know a lot about. Oh, so yeah.
if they don't really, okay, the guy, the pastor, he does do other things than these masses, right? He counsels people, and he does maintenance on his the side buildings and that kind of stuff. So I guess he has other things to do. But every time I see him and everything he does, I personally talked to him. He pretty much does the same thing every time. And there are these other people who also have jobs like mailman and that kind of stuff that do the exact same thing every day.
Oh, every day. I thought you were talking about every year.
No, it's worse, right? So this, the pastor, I've done my second christening. That's like when you're 10 or 11, I think.
I think so, yeah.
You stay with a with a pastor for 2 or 3 days, and you read about Jesus and do all kinds of stuff together. It sounds very rapey the way I say it, but it is kind of
No,
fun.
it's religious.
But it wasn't fun for me because I was with a lot of other kids that just constantly bullied me. So it was kind of a bad experience. But the pastor guy, he's very nice and very reasonable, but it's very shallow. Like he does not think outside of the things that you already heard from him 1,000 times. And I just cannot stand these people that apparently are happy to never grow, or at least, I mean, I cannot speak for them, of course.
Challenge their own ideas? Or
Sort of, yeah. Yeah, I always need for, like, if you see the same old tired, for instance, headlines ending with a question mark, asking a question, you basically already know after you've lived for more than 25 years that the answer is always no. So why even try? Why even do these things? After a certain amount of time, it's just whatever. You know how the story goes. I get very annoyed by that, and I was already annoyed by that when I was like 12, or I guess 10. And it only got worse, and when I was 16, I finally got my parents to agree that I don't have to come to church, and I was very happy, and haven't gone ever since, and still happy about it.
I've never been to a church function. Like, I've never been to a sermon or anything like that. I always think about this one thing. You see these in all of these law dramas in the U.S., that you note that in court, when you go up as a witness, you swear on the Bible. And my thought with that is, anyone who does not subscribe to that religion, isn't that just extremely disingenuous and kind of offensive to the religion? It's sort of like if you went up and said, I swear on Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't really understand how that works legally. Like, does it have any value? I just see it as a tradition, or like a custom.
It basically is a custom, but it just some customs seem odd to me, just like how we have "In God We Trust" on all of our coins.
Yeah, well, that was to fight the communists, right?
Yeah.
That at least has some. Well,
Yeah.
I guess everything has some historic reason.
I know, it's still odd.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, especially in the U.S. Such a diverse country, especially when it comes to religions and such firm. Well, I guess not really firm separation of church and state, but at least firm protections.
Yeah, I think, and rightly so, that most people with these things, like "In God We Trust" on coins, they don't care.
No.
Because it doesn't matter that much.
No, I firmly believe in people not caring about most things. It's what keeps the world turning, right?
Indeed. Another thing, you talk about how you get very frustrated with people who won't challenge ideas. I had this friend who told me once this very interesting thing, because I basically question everything and get very, pedantic about things. Such a charming guy. But she said that, like, since she's been friends with me, she believes things she sees online less and has been like challenging things and notices that.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, isn't that a good thing? But no, she complained to me about this. It's like, she said she missed just sort of believing the things she heard because it's sort of nicer. And I can see that. And I can see a very attractive argument to just believing the things you hear because it is easier. But in some senses, the only thing I think is it can be also very dangerous because you can latch onto bad misconceptions, which is good for nobody.
It's like psychological easing or something, or mental easing.
You talking about cognitive easing? Or
is it cognitive easing? I think that's something
cognitive
else.
Easing is when you hear the same thing over and over again.
Right. No, it's like that you have to actually put in measurable effort to challenge an idea, not just take it at face value.
Oh.
There's a dissonance here. I'm thinking about two things. So on the one hand, sure, it's easier to believe everything you read directly at face value. But at some point, you have a reference frame, right? You believe certain things, you have stored information about certain things, and then there is a new headline that says something is completely the other way around. At that point, you have the same issue, right? Do you believe this at face value? Do you just change?
Yeah.
Because people don't change, right? The natural state of things is to keep firmly believing in whatever you do, and the more counter evidence there is, the more you try to creep back into your bubble and more strongly believe what you believed before. So preceding ideas trump, that is not a good word, preceding ideas supersede ideas that enter your brain later. Yes. So you get the same issue, right? You have to actively reject new ideas, and that's not easy. I don't see how this quantitatively works.
Is possible.
I get tangled. I don't know what to think now.
I do notice, and I think I was kind of annoyingly like this when I was younger. Whenever there would be contradicting headlines, I would very, very readily change my opinion. But you always want to go where the majority of evidence is. So that's basically equally as bad as only believing the first thing you hear all the time.
Yeah, this runs into the second issue, and that is that the amount of evidence or the amount of times you see something is not necessarily in proportion to the validity and truthfulness.
That's true, but the only way you can sort of tackle that is to try to, be a filter for which information.
Yeah, but how can you be as a layman if you see something?
As a layman, it's almost near impossible for many, many applications to do that. You have to trust some sources.
Yeah.
Everybody says everything's biased, but, unless you are actually doing the research, you have to trust some sources.
Yeah, and then there's the issue of which sources do you trust? Because there are
the trustworthy ones.
There are plenty of examples of sources that are authoritative that are not trustworthy, right? There are good examples of entire governments lying on long time scales, and eventually the truth always comes out, but lying and saying the exact opposite thing of what should be happening. I'm not talking about 9/11 truthers at this point. I can understand people not trusting, for instance, climate scientists, because they have this concept, and with good reason they know that there are very large institutions that do not have the best interests of them in mind.
I don't have good answers for you, Dan.
Because the thing I go back to is my science education, right? So I understand how things work. That's the only way, in my opinion, to combat having to rely on other people telling you that something is the way it is. Like for a lot of things in the world, a lot of headlines you can just very easily prove or disprove with even the most basic understanding of thermodynamics or economics 101 or that kind of stuff. But if you do not have the background or the mental capacity at that moment to do that, I just don't know how you can, with like a more than 50-50 accuracy, determine the trustworthiness of something.
I feel like we keep coming back to this topic, though.
Is this a topic we've done before?
Talking about validity of information, like what's trustworthy.
The thing I'm most disappointed about, I guess, is that news is one of the primary ways we disseminate information. And a lot of people listen to it, and a lot of people listen to other journalistic sources. But journalists are the worst laymen of all. Right? Yeah. They have no specialty. They don't know anything. They don't have scientific background. They don't have political backgrounds or anything, usually, at least. They might have experience. The vast majority of cases, they don't have any kind of rigorous background in the subject. And they're the ones determining what we read and see and hear.
That always gets me to, you always see these journalists popularizing these completely bunk studies about blah food is good for whatever.
Nutritional research, my favorite.
Yeah.
Healthcare triage.
That can be annoying. It's also, this just reminds me of this great, have you ever heard of the mathematician Walter Rudin?
Doesn't immediately ring a bell.
Well, he wrote this very famous textbook called Principles of Mathematical Analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And, a joke about the textbook is that if you had a nickel for every theorem in the textbook, you could buy the textbook twice. Lots of people love this textbook, and lots of people just find it what breaks them in their math education.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes you will see 2 to 3 theorems per page. The entire textbook just reads as a bunch of definitions and theorems in a list. Extremely few remarks or, I guess, any human emotion shown in the text. But for maybe, I don't know when this last edition was first published, but maybe the last 50, maybe even 60 years, it has been the top analysis textbook. And analysis is a big branch of mathematics. There are usually 3 people talk about: algebra, analysis, and geometry.
Yes.
And so it had been the principal introduction to analysis textbook for the last 60 years. Like, for example, my math professor for this last class, he learned through this textbook, and I learned through this textbook. And it's like,
wow.
It's had a crazy long lifespan. What Walter Rudin also liked a lot was mathematical history, like the history of mathematics and mathematicians. Of course, he didn't include any of that in his textbook because you need more room for the list of theorems.
Yes.
There's this lecture he gives where he talks a little bit about the history of some famous problems, notably like string vibration problem. And he has this one remark which is just very telling and I think well summarizes the problem with journalists. He said, there are extremely few good mathematical historians because to be able to write about the history of something, you need to understand that subject. And with the depth of mathematics and just how long it's been around, to truly understand that, once you truly understand that, you're too taken with the mathematics to actually go back and learn the history. So there are very few, good mathematical history writings. And I think that's just true about many things.
Yeah.
Which is a little sad because I've seen a little mathematical history and it's really fun. You ever see the name Bernoulli on some theorem or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
There were 6 Bernoullis, and they were all a family. And so whatever Bernoulli name you saw on that theorem, it could be any one of them, which was kind of fun. There's lots of fun there, but sadly not a lot of writings. Actually, anyone out there is listening and somehow happens upon an interesting mathematical history textbook, that is the math thing you can get me for Christmas.
Have you told your family that this podcast exists?
Yes, maybe I should do that. It's good to diversify the topics, and that's something we can say something about.
I actually have another topic for that.
For computer science?
Well, not really computer science, just programming, just to get into it.
Sure.
Some very pedestrian programming from my side. So I've recently set up a new website. It's not, well, it is live. You can go there, but it's very incomplete.
Make sure to email them through who is.
Yes. Okay. So that's number one. It's a website about political subjects, and for that reason, I decided not to use WHOIS privacy. And that means that my personal information, including my company name and my direct email address and everything, is online. You can find it under this new domain name. And I get tons of very shady spam mails, including ones like, and it is just so much fun if you read them. It's like, your domain name will expire in 2 days if you don't respond to this email and pay some kind of fee. Okay, it's written in a way that it's obviously fake. There are this way you can tell where they make things bold and use different kinds of colors to.
I don't actually know why they do that.
Yeah, it just makes me think of those like religious scam letters, right? They underline things and write things in the margins, so it looks like it's handwritten, but really it's just printed with the rest. It really looks like that. But if you were gullible, or like it's the first time you've done this, it's a big adventure, you get a lot of mails, sure, it might be convincing to somebody who is not that well versed, but you get 5 imposters as well with exactly the same email but different expiration dates. So it just detracts from the, like, even if you would have fallen for the first one, then you would get like 5 other emails, some with dates in the past, right? You can check that your website is still up. And no, it did not go down on December 21st because it's December 23rd today. So yeah, it's very, very weird. But so that's one thing. But the actual topic I want to get into, and I decided to hand code the website. Usually I use a something called Workflow. The website is mostly written articles, and I've blogged about those before. And I usually, when I export my blogs, for instance, to WordPress, I use a handy tool. The blogs are originally written in UBB code, so that's like HTML but with square brackets instead of angle brackets, and some other slight changes to make it work through a parser. So I have to parse my blogs and put them into actual HTML format, use normal HTML tags, and do some other formatting things, and I automate that. And this time I thought, well, let's just do everything by hand, write the pages by hand, and only use limited automation to translate my blogs to this website. So I did that.
Why?
Oh, just I like hand-coded web pages, pretty much. I just like, it's very relaxing to handwrite HTML and CSS. It's fun.
I get that feeling too. It's been too long since I've really programmed something.
Right.
I feel super rusty. I was just trying today to make counting networks and sorting networks for the next video. And sadly, because of the bogged down details of just like setting up the visuals, I was going really slowly because I was like, wow, this is so tedious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. But that is kind of what attracts me to programming as well. You can just get totally lost in a big project for like a week, like coding all day. It's so much fun. It's not very productive, but it's I find it fun to do. But so I'm very proud of my hand coded web pages, but I know that my coding is pretty crap, just on average, and I'm pedestrian at best, especially at CSS. So what do? I throw my code into IRC, in an IRC group of a hackerspace. And these are people, some people just code for a living, there's this one guy who just loves reading specifications. He read the entire HTML5 specification, including all the associated protocols, for fun, and then he re-implemented, I think it's Smile, which is a very obscure visualization protocol or visualization language. So I post the link to my website in the IRC, and it's just completely bananas, right? Everybody has something to say. There are like hundreds of comments on my coding style and things that are missing, and I don't have my char set, or I don't even have a doc type. How can you call yourself an HTML programmer if you don't have a doc type? Like, what does the browser have to do with this? Well, all the usual things. But what do you think about? Because all these things are pedantic, right? There is HTML is specifically, especially browsers are specifically designed to work with crappy code. It's made to any kind of websites, especially big framework-based websites, they're full of errors, full of either formatting errors or code violations or anything like that. Every website is crappy. There's tons of bugs, but it works. And when it works, it's good, usually. But these guys are so pedantic. But I love that because, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to validate your website is not to use some kind of validation tool, but to use pedantic people who do this stuff for a living as validation tools, because they also know tens of different validation tools that they immediately use, and it's just so much faster to know where you're going wrong. But what do you think about this programming pedantry?
I think it's very satisfying when all these rules are satisfied and it sort of works. I think in the nature of things, most of the stuff I like is like thinking up crypto systems or just working with algorithms and trying to get better asymptotic performances, or see what you can do under really weird computation models. That's as far away as you can get from the pedantic side of programming, because you're just literally doing the programming problem, and you're even hardly ever coding things, let alone coding things with all the correct specifications.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I've never been a huge fan of doing these specification things myself. This is why this will be a real challenge for me, trying to just put up this program to hopefully make a nice and satisfying counting/sorting network to run in the background of a podcast. Because just like going through the pedantics of coding and just making boxes on a screen, it's taking me so long because I just find it so boring. I would love to have other people do it for me, but you know what they say about the idea guy of a programming team is just completely useless.
Yes.
So you do have to do these things. But when it comes down to buggy websites, I am fine with buggy websites. But it is nice to have people who are not fine with buggy websites.
Yeah, you have the reverse as well, right? There are people who, how do I say this in a flattering way? People who just don't know what they're doing. And at a certain point, it's okay if you know that you're crap. A lot of people, they are satisfied when something works and the way they intended it to work, even if, like, behind the scenes it is a mess and it's a bunch of spaghetti that's
okay. I will say one thing. I hate that so much. I will say that things like spaghetti code and that I hate so much. If it's not organized well, that's pretty terrible.
Yeah, no way to say that.
Hey, wait, where's our website?
We don't have a website. We have a YouTube page.
Exactly.
We are sponsored by one of the biggest companies, media companies in the world, YouTube, who host our podcasts for free.
I know, right?
It's an awesome service. Yeah, it took a while to get them that
It's
far.
great. I feel so special.
Anyway, I guess that's it for this time.
Seems like it.
I
Anyways.
hope you have a nice New Year's. I will not be here, and I will not be online for New Year's.
Where will you be?
In a galaxy far, far away.
Ah, sounds good.
Yeah. It's lots of lasers.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
I'll send you a New Year's text and maybe you'll get it. Period. No.
End of statement.